Right, beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Okay, this is the $1 trillion video, okay? This is the $1 trillion question. This is probably the hottest debate in world football right now, and we're going to address it. Okay, is Kylian Mbappe's arrival in Madrid a blessing or a curse? Okay, is Kylian a sort of generational player with unbelievable speed, incredible technique, who finishes plays, prolific goal scorer, who's going to bring a ton of glory to this club? Or is he a curse? Is he a player that is too individualistic, that dribbles too much, that slows our play down, and that has created imbalance in the squad? Okay, in this video, I'm going to offer both arguments. And then at the end, I'm going to give you guys my opinion, okay? As a socio, a lifelong socio, you guys know this. As somebody that's been going to the Bernabéu for 50 years, that's how old I am. I attend every match, all the stuff that you guys know already. I'm going to give you my opinion, and it doesn't mean that I'm right. I could very well be wrong, and your opinion is just as good as mine. But I'm going to offer you, my opinion based on my experience. All right, let's start with the argument that Kylian is a blessing. Okay, Kylian is an extraordinary player. Okay, he's a player that has extraordinary qualities, and you don't come across players like this very, very often. Okay, he is incredibly technical. He's incredibly quick. He knows how to finish plays. He's a prolific goal scorer, and he does play well in the sort of really big matches. He's proven that. So let's talk about some of these attributes. Okay, let's talk about his speed first. Now, Kylian is very rare in the sense that he's very quick in short spaces, but very fast in longer sprints. Now, this is very, very unusual, and I can tell you because I see this in the Bernabéu, and typically players that are very quick in short spaces, they tend to be sort of shorter players, but they tend to not be as fast in sort of 30, 40 meter runs, right? You think about players like Messi or Iniesta or Brahim or like Mo Salah, these are players that are super quick in tight spaces, but then if they run 30, 40 meters, they tend to get outrun by sort of fullbacks and even many center backs, and that just tends to be the case, right? Because defenders and center backs sometimes have longer legs, and over longer distances they tend to sort of outperform shorter players. It's what I sort of call the Usain Bolt effect. Like if you remember Usain Bolt in the beginning of the 100 meters, he was always the slowest guy in the first 10 or 15 meters, but then after that, because of the long legs, he would catch up. So it typically is unusual for a player to be extremely quick in short spaces, but then be able to outrun most fullbacks and center backs in a 30 to 40 meter sprint. This is extremely unusual in a player, but it is the case with Kylian, and I see this every week. The other thing that Kylian has is unbelievable technique in terms of dribbling. So he's a player that can dribble in very small spaces, especially when he sort of receives the ball and spins and turns. He's incredibly skillful, incredibly quick, but he can also dribble at max speed. And again, that's unusual. A player that is very good technically dribbling in short spaces, but that can also do it when he's sprinting at max speed. Again, these are not qualities that you find in every single player. Now, another thing that you can say about Kylian is that he's a killer. I mean, he is very effective in the final third. He knows how to finish plays, and his conversion rate, it is certainly higher than a player like Vini. I mean, Vini tends to miss things in the final third that Kylian, usually would not. Now, it doesn't mean that Kylian doesn't miss. I mean, he does miss, but his conversion rate is very high. So he is a very prolific goal scorer. He's also a player that is a big match player, and we've seen this. I mean, this is a guy that has won the World Cup. In one World Cup, he scored 4 goals if you include the penalties. He scored, in Bayern now. We saw that against Bayern in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Neuer had that crazy save with his forearm. I mean, he could have scored more goals, but he is a prolific goal scorer. I mean, if you look at Kylian's career, at Monaco, he scored 27 goals in 60 appearances, but he was a teenager, okay, which is pretty amazing. He scored in his first Champions League debut, he scored 6 goals, and again, he was just a teenager at the time. Now, in Monaco, he typically played on the left, right, with Radamel Falcao in the middle. Of course, he would sometimes drift to the middle, but he played primarily on the left. Now, at PSG, he scored 256 goals in 308 matches, okay? That's a 0.83 goals per match. That's a very high ratio. So this is a player that knows how to score. There's no doubt about it. At PSG, again, he also played on the left, especially during the Cavani years. And then later, when Neymar came, you know, he sometimes played as a 9, but most of the time would play on the left. With France, this guy has scored 56 goals in 96 appearances. He won the World Cup in 2018. Okay, and then in the 2022 final, he scored a hat trick in regular play, and then scored another goal in the penalty shootout. And if you remember that final, I mean, Kylian almost turned that match around single-handedly. And you're talking about, you know, 4 goals in a World Cup final. There is no bigger match in the world than a World Cup final in terms of what it means and the weight and the pressure. So, you know, this is a guy that scored 12 goals in World Cups. There are very few players in the world that have scored more. There's just a handful of them. He's tied with Ronaldo Nazario in terms of goals in the knockout stages of a World Cup. So he has 8, and R9 has 8 as well. Again, with France, he plays typically on the left. That's kind of his typical position. He drifts to the middle naturally, but that's kind of where he plays. And then in terms of Real Madrid, he's come to Real Madrid. He scored in his debut season 43 goals, which is the most goals by any Real Madrid player in their debut year. He even beat Banban Zamorano. He won the Pichichi in La Liga. He won the Golden Boot. So, I mean, he's a prolific goal scorer. This season, he scored 38, 23 in La Liga, and 15 in the Champions League. Now, 15 in the Champions League is a really, really high number. I mean, especially considered, you know, just through the quarterfinals. He's only 2 behind the record, which was El Bicho, Chris, you know, here we call him the specimen, the creature. So he's only 2 behind Cristiano in that regard. And now in Real Madrid, he has played primarily as a number 9 in the center forward position. And even in that position, you know, he's been very prolific. I mean, there is no doubt that he is a magnificent player. And I think any team in the world would consider themselves very, very lucky to have him. I mean, let's be honest. This is a very exceptional player, and his attributes as a player are amazing, okay? Now, that is the blessing side of the argument. Now, let's go to the curse side of the argument. Okay. Now, what are the arguments in terms of Kylian being, you know, a curse? Now, okay, a lot of the things that you hear are, some of the first arguments you hear are a little bit esoteric and kind of intangible, but they're true nonetheless. So, for example, you know, he never won the Champions League at PSG, right? Despite being in a squad that was totally stacked, right? I mean, you had Messi and Neymar, and yet despite that, he was unable to win the Champions League, right? And then, you know, it's also true that since he left PSG has also, you know, been really, really good. And then it coincided with him coming to Madrid that was coming off a really spectacular year, and Real Madrid has gone south. So these are kind of sort of fluffy arguments, kind of a little bit esoteric, but they are true nonetheless. So, you know, you can say that now you can say that, you know, he has had a bad impact on Real Madrid in that regard. Now, another argument that people make is that Kylian has destroyed the balance in the squad. So before he arrived, Vini and Jude were the focal point of the Real Madrid attack. All players attacked together and all players defended together. There seemed to be a lot of natural flow in our play. And ever since Kylian has arrived, the squad seems to have had to adapt to his presence, and it does feel like he has sort of ruined the balance of the squad. That is an argument that you hear quite a bit. Now, you can also argue as a sort of negative that Sometimes Kylian drifts to the left and forces Vini to move to the center, and that is obviously not Vini's strong suit. So it does create a little bit of disruption in that sense. Another argument that you can make is that Kylian simply is not a number 9. He's just not a natural number 9. And if you think about the role of a number 9, a number 9 is a player that typically tends to be a 1, 2, 3 touch player. I mean, not really a dribbler. And, you know, when a number 9 receives the ball outside the box, and sometimes a number 9 has to, you know, if the middle of the pitch is congested and you're having a hard time progressing, sometimes the number 9 comes out of the box, you know, retreats 20 meters and helps to oxygenate the play. And then typically a number 9 would sort of make 1 or 2 touches on the ball and then go back forward, right? Go back either towards the box or in the box. So that is typically what a number 9 would do. And then if a number 9 is in the box, he's typically there to finish plays, right? And if you're going to finish a play in the box, you're really talking about 1 to 2, maybe 3 touches on the ball. But that's not Kylian, right? Kylian is a player that loves to dribble, he loves to run, he needs space, and he loves to dribble. And so his natural characteristics are not really like those of a 9. So he is a player that is much more effective on the wing because he needs a lot of space. So you can make a very compelling case to say that he's just not a natural number 9. Okay, now he scores a lot of goals because he's a really good player, you know, but it's just not his natural position. You can also argue, and I've made this point a lot in my videos, that Kylian has a tendency to slow our play down because he likes to dribble. But again, the number 9 is not somebody that should be holding up the ball and dribbling, but he does like to. He'll come back to the middle of the pitch and try to dribble around people, and that's just it's not what a number 9 is supposed to be. And importantly, it's not the way Real Madrid plays. Real Madrid is a very vertical team. Real Madrid historically is a counterattacking team, a very, very vertical team, okay? Now, and that requires players to release the ball very quickly, right? We're talking 1, 2, 3 touches, but always moving very vertically, very quickly with a lot of movement up front. But that's not really Kylian. I mean, Kylian gets the ball and he kind of holds it up. He starts dribbling, but it slows the flow of play. And that is something that results in a lot of ball losses in the middle of the pitch, because sometimes he loses the ball when he does that. And it also results in an empty box, because if Kylian is in the middle of the pitch trying to dribble around 4 players, not only does he risk losing it, which happens quite a bit, but he's not there in the box. There's nobody in the box to finish plays. So it is just this. He does slow our play down in some regards, and this is a very, I think, sort of, you know, valid criticism of him, because when you receive the ball in the middle of the pitch, you're going to be surrounded by players. All right, like players like Kylian. The dribbling is something that should be done on the wings, right? The 1v1s and the 1v2s, that's something you do on the wing because there's space behind and it makes sense. In the middle of the pitch, it's always very crowded, and it's just not. But so Kylian dribbling in the middle of the pitch, it's just not really a great idea. Now, another criticism that you can make is, and people say this a lot, is that somehow he's destabilizing in the dressing room, okay? And that somehow in the dressing room it creates issue. Now, I mentioned this in my previous video. I think that the ego dressing room issues are always grossly exaggerated. I mean, I've been hearing this stuff for decades, and it never really turns out to be true. But there are people that say that it is a little bit disruptive, that Kylian's presence in the dressing room has kind of disrupted the very cool vibe that existed prior to his arrival. And that's not something that anybody can really prove, but it is something that people are talking about. So those are very compelling arguments as to why Kylian, you know, has been a curse. Now, what do I think? Now, let me, first give you guys background in terms of my relationship with this whole situation. I was part of the Madridismo that was profoundly offended when he didn't come in 2023. I mean, I was really pissed off. He had made a verbal commitment to Florentino Perez that he would come 2 years earlier, and Madridismo was expecting it. Like, we were all expecting him to come. And when he didn't come, it was really, we took it really as an insult. We took it as a betrayal. We took it as an insult. And so, my thoughts on Kylian coming, I was very, very bitter to begin with. But then once it was announced that he was coming, you kind of slowly start to accept it, and then that acceptance slowly turns into kind of excitement. I think it's just sort of human nature. I mean, I even attended the welcome at the Bernabéu, if you guys go back to my earlier videos. So I slowly, my anger sort of subsided, and I started to get excited about the fact that this amazing player is coming. It's a little bit, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's a little bit like, I don't know, like a young couple that doesn't want to have kids, but they get pregnant. Eventually you start to get used to the idea, and then you start to get excited about idea, and then you eventually are happy about it. But it's kind of like, I don't know, my relationship with Kylian coming was a bit like an unexpected pregnancy in a way, but eventually you kind of fall in love with the idea, and you kind of adopt it, and try to be positive about it. So it's a little bit like that. I just want to give you guys the background, because it was, there was a very gradual transition there. But in terms of what I think today, and all of this can be controversial, and you guys can kill me in the comment section. Look, I'm happy that he's here because I think he's an exceptional player. Okay, I think he's an absolutely exceptional player for all the qualities that I just mentioned. And I don't think that there's a team in the world that wouldn't be happy to have him. I think to say that you don't want Kylian on your team is kind of a really extreme thing to say. And I understand it based on kind of all the negative stuff I've just commented, but I think it's a little bit extreme. So I understand the negative case, but he is an exceptional player. And I think that the problem, and here we get into the whole balance issue. It's not that I think Kylian shouldn't be here. I'm very happy that he's here. I just don't think that he should be playing the number 9 position, because it interrupts our flow. It interrupts our style of play. It slows us down. He over dribbles, and it's just not who Kylian is. It's just not the most effective way to play him. He's a guy that has incredible amounts of speed, who needs space. He can do the 1v1s and the 1v2s, but he should do it on the wing, because once he gets past those defenders, he's got space and he's lethal. And he needs to play on the left wing, because he loves to cut to the inside and he loves to shoot with the right. And this is just look. He's done well as a number 9 and scores a lot of goals because he's a really good player. Okay, like that. That's just the simple fact. But is it ideal for our style of play? No. Is it ideal for him? No. Is he a natural number 9? No. So I'm happy that Kylian is here, but I just think that he would be much more effective playing on the left wing. And here we get back into the whole duplication and balance issue. And right now, I'm becoming increasingly of the view that Real Madrid has to make an important decision and either keep Vini or keep Kylian. And I just don't think that we can keep both, because I just think that it's interrupting our flow and our style of play. And the answer cannot be to put Kylian on the right, because we already have 17 players that want to play on the right wing. I mean, we have Rodrigo, we have Brahim, we have Mastantuono, we have Enrique coming back. And by the way, Enrique in Brazil played as a number 9, but if you watch the way he plays in France, he plays as a right winger that drifts to the middle. And in that role, he's amazing, because Enrique is really explosive, has unbelievable speed, and if you give him space, he's amazing. And then he cuts to the center and he can shoot with both feet. So we have so much talent on the right wing that the answer can't be putting Kylian on the right wing. But I don't think the answer is playing him as a 9, because he's just not a number 9. So I do think that the club has a decision to make. It's going to be either Vini or Kylian, but I just don't think that it works if we keep both. And if you ask me which one should leave, this is a really tricky question, and I'm going to get into a lot of trouble, and half of you guys are going to hate me. But right now, and what I'm telling you guys, a very significant part of socios, and Madridismo here, share this view. I think that right now, on balance, based on what we see on the pitch, there's probably a stronger case to make to let Vini go. And it's some of the rationale, if you guys want to go through that rationale, watch my previous video. It's called What Happens Now. It literally is the video prior to this one. And I discussed the Vini issue and what a lot of people here are saying. And I think that there is a more compelling case to let Vini go than Kylian. But I think that playing Kylian, if you want to get the best out of this really amazing player, whose finishing, I think we all agree, is better than Vini's, who doesn't create all the drama and all the noise and all the distraction, and who has a much more effective conversion rate. I know that Vini's younger, and I know that we've won 2 Champions League with Vini, and Vini's amazing, and I love him. Believe me, I love him to death. And under any other circumstance, I would want to have both on the team. But it's just really hard to justify, because if you look at the way that we play, and you look at the type of football that Real Madrid always plays, and what we need from our players, playing Kylian as a 9 is disruptive. Kylian needs to play on that left wing. And is Vini someone that is going to accept being on the bench if Kylian starts a match? Or are you going to have both of them compete on that left wing? That's a really tricky situation. So I just think that on the balance of all the different factors, you can make a more compelling case for Vini to leave and Kylian to play on the left. And it would allow you to, if you play a 4-3-3, to put in a more natural number 9, who's a guy that finishes plays, that doesn't slow you down in the middle of the pitch. You get the very best out of Kylian because he's amazing with space in front of him. And you wouldn't have all the distractions and all the drama. So I think that there is a more compelling case to let Vini go. Now, I know that half of you guys are going to kill me, and it doesn't mean that I don't love Vini. I do, and I appreciate him, and he's been so amazing for us, and we've won so much with him. But I do think that the club has to make a decision. So on the whole, I think that Kylian's arrival has been a blessing. I think he's a very talented player. But the club has a decision to make, because I don't think it's sustainable to play with both of these players, because it's forcing people to play at a position and it's slowing down our play, and our football doesn't look like Real Madrid football because of this duplication problem and this overlap problem. So look, I know this is incredibly controversial. I know in the comment section a lot of you guys are going to rip my head off, but I'm prepared for that. But look, I just wanted to volunteer my thoughts on the whole Kylian issue, because it's such a hot topic that everybody's kind of talking about. But I wanted to volunteer my thoughts. It's just my opinion. You know, it's no better than yours, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I love all of you. Thanks for joining me. And as always and forever, a la Madrid.